I'd like to have a, thank you. Okay. I'd like for you all to listen to a gentleman. His name is Robert Welch Jr. He was an American businessman and a political organizer. He was wealthy following his retirement from a candy business and used it to sponsor anti-communist causes. This speech he spoke in 1958.
Part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Here are the aims for the United States. 1. Greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2. Higher and then much higher taxes. 3. An increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4. Wild inflation of our currency. 5. Government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6. Greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied naturally and automatically by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7. Far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8. The steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9. A constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government, which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world.
All right. Well, he was considered a conspiracy theorist back in 1958, but pretty much everything he said is coming to pass. Next, I would like for you all to listen to Presidents George H.W. Bush, President Clinton, President Biden while he was Senator and Vice President, and Hillary Clinton.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
It's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
But the Clinton administration's foreign policy will be what the so-called new world order will look like.
A new world order.
George Bush has invoked a new world order. We all talk about a new world order.
It is a big idea. A new world order.
A new world order.
The historic role in trying to make sure that there is, after all, a new world order.
And today that new world is struggling to be born. A world quite different from the one we've known.
I believe we, and particularly you, your class, has an incredible window of opportunity to lead in shaping a new world order. A new world order.
Okay, and now I would like for you to listen to President Barack Obama.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. The order And progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign. And for the international.
Okay, wait. Did you all hear what he just said? President Obama said, and for the international order. Same thing as the New World Order. Okay, it was kind of low, so I'm going to repeat what he said. And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. And order and progress can only come when the individuals surrender their rights to all-powerful sovereign. Now, the CDC says that there is a 99.95% chance of survival for people below the age of 50, and a 99.998% chance of survival for those below the age of 18. Now, during the Nuremberg trials, judges asked Hermann Göring, who was Hitler's right man, how they made Germany accept all of the madness. He said, the only thing a government needs to do is to turn the people, the only thing a government needs to turn people into slaves is fear. Now, have any of you ever heard of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012? What it is, it's an act that has enabled the mainstream media to propagandize the news and get away with it by saying, we're entertainment. So when the CDC asked to show us proof through a FIA that the unvaccinated people are indeed spreading the COVID-19, they couldn't prove it. So I'm going to hand you all out some information on the CDC, along with some other things.
It's just a short shutdown. It's just 15 days to slow the spread. It's just social distancing. It's just 6 feet apart. It's just a temporary furlough. It's just working from home. It's just a few layoffs. It's just the non-essential. It's just temporarily closing your small business. It's just closing down your church. It's just cashless payments. It's just to protect yourself. It's just to protect others. It's just online learning for a semester. It's just online learning for 2 semesters. It's just mandatory so kids can go back to school. It's just virtual graduations. It's just one lonely Thanksgiving. It's just one lonely Christmas. It's just one lonely Easter. It's just one lonely birthday. It's just canceling one baby shower. It's just one wedding you'll have to miss. It's just not seeing your grandparents this year. It's just not being able to lay them to rest. It's just a piece of cloth. It's just a face shield. It's just something medical workers should wear. It's just one thing to cover your face. It's just 2 things to cover your face. It's just so you can get on an airplane. It's just something you have to wear all the time. It's just 1 stimulus check. It's just 2 stimulus checks. It's just 3 stimulus checks. It's just an eviction moratorium. It's just another $1 trillion of your tax money. It's just unemployment benefits. It's just so you can keep staying at home. It's just 1 injection. It's just 2 injections. It's just a few bad reactions. It's just a few side effects. It's just a booster. It's just updated guidance. It's just until we get the new variant under control. It's just a little card. It's just another mandate. It's just another lockdown. It's just a face scan. It's just a curfew. It's just a safety measure. It's just a microchip. It's just so everyone can prove they've gotten it. It's just door-to-door enforcement. It's just separating those who chose not to get it. It's just removing them from society altogether. It's just a fact check. It's just to fight fake news. It's just silencing those conservatives. It's just deplatforming the president. It's just deplatforming his supporters. It's just silencing those who question the narrative. It's just giving up a few of your freedoms. It's just so you can have a bank account. It's just so you can have a job. It's just so you can enter the store. It's just so you can provide for your family. It's just so we don't take your kids away from you. It's just so we can contact trace. It's just so we can track your movements. It's just so you can exist. It's just so we can get back to normal. It's just so we can get back to normal. It's just so we can get back to normal. Just stop. The word just has become the most dangerous word in history because they just wanted to see what you would tolerate. But the word just can also end this nightmare. Because if you just open your eyes, if you just realize where this is going, if you just refuse to comply, if you just refuse to conform, if you just refuse to submit, if you just stand up for your rights, if you just organize and push back, if you just stop patronizing those who despise you, if you just demand to be free, if you just realize your own power, if you just realize we have strength in numbers, if you just realize that we are the majority, their power will just disappear.
Okay, would any of the parents like a handout? I have plenty. No? Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Audrey, you're signed up under delegations. Do you want to speak to the crowd, or?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to.
We're going to move on in with the agenda and we'll go quickly so we can get into the recognition. The minutes of the November 15th expulsory, both of them, and the regular minutes from November 22nd.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve all three minutes that are attached. Is there any questions, comments, or further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report. Clay, you on there?
He's on here. Clay. Oh, he was.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on, and then we'll come back to that. This reports, discussions, and follow-up, specifically the recognition of Math Field Day participants, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, is that you?
Yes. I would like to thank the parents and students who came to honor their students for their Math Field Day achievements. Just a little bit of background. On November 16th, Mrs. Conrad and I worked on Math Field Day. We went ahead and gave the Math Field Day for grades 3 through 6 here at the board office. And while we were doing that, Mrs. Barr gave Math Field Day assessments to students grades 7 through 9. And then all students came here for the physical estimation part. So I would like to thank and recognize Mrs. Conrad and Mrs. Barr for helping with Math Field Day. I also like to thank the parents for encouraging their students to participate in Math Field Day. I'm going to call you grades at a time. And this evening, I'm just recognizing 3rd grade through 9th grade just for the sake of the size of our crowd. And then the next board meeting, I will work on recognizing the high school grades 10 through 12. So for 3rd grade, first place winner for Math Field Day was Brooklyn White. 2nd place, Savannah McNeely. 3rd place, Madison Hacker. First alternate, Ethan Matson, and 2nd alternate, RJ Holt. Fourth grade, first place winner, Ryder Tumblin. Sidious Plum. 3rd place, Xavier Sylvester. First alternate, Kendall Frazier. And 2nd alternate, Colton Swigert. 5th grade, first place, Joe Carter. 2nd place, Landon Hartshorn. 3rd place, Garrett Moyers. First alternate, Roddick Page. And 2nd alternate, Alex Ayers. we only had one participant, or no, I'm sorry, that was 7. 6th grade, first place, Lacey Martin. Second place, Callie Carpenter. Third place, Maggie Snyder. First alternate, Sean McNeely. And second alternate, Jeremiah McCune. 7th grade, this is the grade we only had one participant, Lacey Canfield, first place. 8th grade, first place, Anna Mason. Second place, Katie Martin. Third place, Kayla Paul. 9th grade, first place, Summer Bourne. Second place, Allie Ellison. Third place, Haley Patterson. First alternate, Peyton Sauer. And second alternate, Dustin Harper. And those winners, if you wouldn't care to step out in the hallway, I'd like to get a picture of everybody.
He's trying to get back on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
You guys woke up. Yeah.
We're gonna back up and do the treasurer's report at this time. All right.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
All right. I don't have a monthly financial report tonight. I do have the schedule of checks to be written. Was there any question on those?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the checks to be written as submitted.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the checks to be written as submitted. Is there any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Okay. And I believe that there was one submission for purchase over 5,000 in your packet. That was from our Technology Model Schools grant. Those items and what is being requested to purchase actually doesn't even have to go out for bid because that is a sole source vendor. And according to state purchasing policies, if that's the only place that you can get those items, which for those STEAM materials, that is. So we won't have to bid it out, but I still wanted you guys to see that purchase. Are there any questions on it? I'll do my best to answer if I can.
But we do need a motion to do it since it is over 5,000. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of over $5,000 as presented. Any questions or comments? The only thing that I would add, Tom, is I'd ask that you not make that motion because it's from your daughter. Not that.
I didn't know why that was back.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
So let's resubmit that. Jason's gonna make the motion, Doug will second it, and Tom, he's going, well, that'll be up to him, but I'm gonna call for a vote in just a second. So we have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of over $5,000 that was presented. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're done for you now, with you now, but hang on.
I'm going to try.
Good luck. Mr. Price?
Yes. Good evening. Lots of good things going on right now in Gilmer County Elementary School. Our students in 2nd through 5th grade took an exciting trip to Glenville State College today to watch a basketball game. I'm dressed to go to the game. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make it. I had a kid, my own kid got sick today, so I wasn't able to make it, but I hear our kids had a great time. I want to thank the athletic department for inviting us and our PE teachers for organizing this, putting that together. Mr. Frazier for getting the transportation taken care of. It was a very successful afternoon for our kids. We're in the midst of our benchmark assessments right now, so we're assessing our students for learning from the beginning of the year to see where we're at. In the middle of the year, we're going to regroup our instructional groups and take a fresh look at things, take a fresh approach here in the 2nd semester. So we're every grade, preschool through 5th grade, depending on what grade they're in and what kind of learning we're looking for, they are in the middle of that benchmark assessment. Basketball games start this weekend. So this Saturday, if you are in the area, starting, I believe it's either 9:30 or 10, swing by Gilmer County Elementary School if you want to watch a good game. They've had plenty of practices this year, so we should have a good season. We have 4 teams, and we really look forward to having you guys here if you're able to come to a game. The holiday shop is open, so if you hear that there's a lot of Christmas shopping going on right now at Gilmer County Elementary School, that is the case. Our PTO has put that together, so I'm very appreciative. They do that on a no markup, those items so students can shop for their parents and family members at a reasonable cost. So they can come in and $3 can get you 3 things to shop with. So that's a pretty good deal. Trying to keep you all aware of where we're at with COVID numbers. 129 quarantines is what I have right now as of for the entire year. So that's just a beginning of year to this point in time. That's where we're at with that. I want to make you all aware about some conversations that are happening instructional-wise at Gilmer County Elementary School. And I want to introduce a word, you guys, and this is only to keep the board informed about some of the conversations that are taking place. And that word is departmentalization. And what departmentalization is in an elementary school is, for example, we have a 5th grade teacher. We actually have 3 5th grade classrooms. And a departmentalized 5th grade would look something like you have one teacher that teaches math, and that's their sole discipline. You have one teacher that teaches English language arts, and that's their sole discipline. And then another teacher might have social studies, science, and writing on the plate, which is still a reduced instructional load. And that allows teachers to focus on their discipline, to go deeper into the standards, to have a better plan for the year, to teach lessons a few times a day. And it is something that our teachers are very interested in. These conversations are taking place now and planning for the 21-22 school year. So we're not springing anything on. I got excited about this idea, and I'll be honest. 22-23. Patty, thank you. Thank you. Planning the wrong year. But yeah, so I did get excited about this idea, but our teachers, we've done a questionnaire with them. They're very excited about this idea. They are very in favor of this. So as we go forward with this and have conversations with you guys, I just want to make sure that you're aware of those conversations and that you know what that word from an instructional perspective means. And then lastly, on the 6th of December, we had our November awards assembly. We recognized students, the artist of the month, musician of the month, the excellent in academics, the character trait of the month for November was thankfulness. So in the month of Thanksgiving, we recognized students that demonstrated thankfulness. We also gave out student initiative awards to Mrs. Roberts' 2nd grade class from last year, who got the ball rolling on a now constructed swing set. So we recognized those students in front of their peers, and they seemed to really like that. We also recognized Connie Odell and Dr. Shelley Ratliff from Glenville State College in the Education Department as our honorary Wildcats, because they are very good neighbors to Gilmer County Elementary School. They're very good friends of the school, and we really appreciate their partnership. That's all that I have. Is there you guys have any questions for me?
No, but I like just this neat setting up here. The departmental, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I think that is, I think that helps move our students forward.
What grade level are you talking about?
We're looking at 2nd through 5th grade. We're looking at 2nd through 5th grade. Second grade would not have a writing component, it would have a phonics component, so you would have, every student would have a 90-minute block of English language arts, a 90-minute block of math, and then 30 minutes of science, 30 minutes of social studies, and then a 30-minute phonics block. So really 120 minutes of English language arts instruction every day. I think that it takes some of the planning off of the teacher's plate, it increases the quality of instruction that students are receiving, and I think all around it's a win. But we want to do it the correct way, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of planning, so we're looking at next year.
I think it's the right thing to do that. I think it's a good move.
Appreciate that. So you'll be hearing more about that as we get through that.
Anyone have any more questions for Mr. Price? Thank you. Mr. Butler?
I'll echo a couple of things that Mr. Price said. I'm very much appreciative of our partnership, having an educational partner in Glenville State College. It goes beyond their use of our use of their facilities, their football fields, their ballrooms, their gymnasiums, just being able to share it in their wrestling facility recently. But things like today where they invited us over and we became their home crowd and cheered for our home college. And it was a very exciting day, and our kids greatly enjoyed that. Again, thank you, Mr. Frazier, for helping us. Some of us walked, about half of us walked back. It's such a beautiful day coming back to the high school. But I appreciate the partnership we have with them. They also call me up from time to time and say, hey, we've got a kiln. You know, we're thinking about auctioning that off, but we could offer it to you guys for free first if you think you could use that. Or we got some music stands. That was another thing happened last week. And they provided us some used but very good condition music stands. Things like that, just thinking of us first and picking up the phone saves us a lot, but also makes us feel valued as well. As you know, our winter athletics are underway, and we're very excited about what we're looking at in winter sports. Our varsity sports are looking very positive. We've had some great basketball wins, and we're looking forward to that, continuing that excitement through the winter. We have about 18 to 22 kids that are out for quarantine right now. Those are not COVID positive cases, but kids that are out of school because they're identified as a direct contact. So not a lot of positive cases, but we do have an uptick here recently in the number of students that are quarantined. We're still keeping this in mind with that we don't wear our masks in the hallways as we exchange classes, and in PE classes we haven't been wearing our masks for rigorous physical activity. But we also have addressed our faculty and our students to tighten up a little bit about what is taking place in the classroom, on the school bus, in these areas where we might be sitting in the gym more casually and not participating in PE, reminding them to wear a mask and making sure that we are monitoring that and, for lack of a better word, trying to enforce that a little better. So that keeps more kids in school, less kids quarantined. As Mr. Price alluded, our benchmark is coming up. Ours starts on Wednesday. For the second benchmark for this year, if you remember, I presented several months ago about after the first benchmark, we provided students their reports. Mrs. Mason actually printed those off in color, which is pretty fancy for us. And every student received their benchmark assessment report for ELA and math. We took those reports and we applied them to a form that looks like this. This is just a math form, if you remember this. We had students review their own goals for what the second benchmark would be, as well as look at where they were in the first benchmark. Are they on grade level? Are they on grade level for reading? Are they on grade level for math? And then we went into the standards on their grade level standards for ELA and math. And we looked at the cluster and the standards within that cluster to see where they thought they could make improvement. What are the standards that they feel would help them make improvement so that the next benchmark, they'd be able to meet a goal when they set a goal for that. So this week, Monday and Tuesday, we're pulling these forms back out. The homeroom teachers hold these with the report, that the student has, laying that in front of the student again and saying, okay, we're getting ready to take a second benchmark. Do you think you're going to make your goal? Have you addressed some of these standards, or have you had a chance in the classroom to study some of these topics? And do you think you're going to do better? And try to put a positive encouragement up on our standardized assessments, that's checking our progress through the year. So that's happening in homerooms on Monday and Tuesday of this week, and we'll start our benchmark assessments on Wednesday. And there's 3 benchmarks throughout the school year. We have a professional development day coming up on the 23rd, and under leadership of Ms. Mason, we're going to be looking at our strategic plan. We're going to be updating our strategic plan, looking at data by subgroups, and most of that data will be from the first benchmark and some of the assessment data, but hopefully we might have some benchmark 2 data about that data as well. I would like to mention that on the topic of departmentalizing grade levels, I too am in favor of that at elementary grades, because it helps us make the transition for students when they come to 6th grade. We departmentalized 6th grade this year for the first year at Gilmer County High School. So instead of all of our 6th grade teachers being multi-subjects and teaching all the subjects, we kind of have a model that's in between what Mr. Price does in multi-subjects. That we might have a teacher that teaches 3 periods of math and 3 periods of English. But instead of teaching math and English and science and social studies, writing and so forth, it does decrease the number of preps they have and allow those teachers that are specialized in those areas to be able to focus their planning and their instruction. That helps them make the transition to middle school when they're actually changing every period to a different teacher. So this happening at an earlier level just helps kids to be more organized, helps them to be used to picking up things and moving and making those transitions and being able to shut down one topic and pick up on another. Where if they're in the classroom all day long, sometimes that transition gets kind of murky. And it's kind of a stunning shock when you experience that the first time in 6th grade. So I appreciate that move and also favor that. Mrs. Mason will likely talk about our ALC plan. I see it on the agenda, so I'll not touch that one. Mr. Frazier will probably talk about the STEPS project, so I'll not touch that one. But I would like to make mention about our lockers at our school. We had a guy who's just driving by that had worked on our lockers. This company had years, I think 3 or 4 years ago. He just stopped by my school, said, I'm the one who put all these plates on your lockers, and here's a quote for fixing your lockers, and here's another quote for spraying and painting all your lockers. And he was to show up in May of 2020 and hasn't been able to for a long period of time. And he showed up with the quotes for the same amount of money. And I asked him, I said, what do you think it would take to put new lockers in this school? And he said, I'd be glad to work you up a quote that's in that bag. And when I mentioned that to Mr. Chesser and to Mr. Frazier, better put on the brakes just a little bit, because before we even receive bids for things that are over $5,000, we ask permission of the board to even seek that. So this is not a request for quote, but if I get a quote and he gives us something that's written up, it might be something we could use as a model to put out a quote to replace our lockers at Gilmer County High School. So I'd like the board just to entertain that thought, not to put it on the agenda for action, but just so you know, I would like to have permission to receive quotes and then maybe make a formal request for quote, or however Mrs. Lowther and Mr. Frazier does that, and Mr. Chesser, to be able to have some quotes on, just to know what we're looking at. I think it's more affordable than what I had thought. So just a ballpark was in the 60 range. And I was very encouraged at that number. That's something that may be doable in the next school year, within a year. Any questions you might have for me?
No, I would just ask that you, work with the administration and then get that on the agenda and seek that information. And I think the board would absolutely entertain it. So it'd just be something you'd work with Mr. Frazier and then have Mrs. Lowther get something on the agenda as far as talking about that. I mean, at least take action on it, whether we wanted to pursue that or we didn't.
Anything else?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Putnam? Thank you. Shelley.
Mr. Putnam spoke a little bit about the ALC. I have worked with the administrative team to restructure the ALC so that we can get kids over here with transportation. So that would help parents and help with providing services for students who need services. What we are proposing is a full-day elementary program here at the board office, and that program would run 8:30 to 3. That would allow Mr. Yoder to have lunch and planning. And then we would look at providing a middle school, high school program all day at the middle high school. These programs can also be used for in-school suspension to kind of house those kids. I have worked with the State Department to make sure we are in compliance. And they said that our plan would be approved, and I did submit it, and they did say that it was good. And I believe in your board packet it's spelled out. Does anyone have any questions on the ALC? Yes.
You said at the middle high school,
Uh-huh.
and this may have happened before I came on, did we hire an ALC facilitator at the middle high school?
Well, it was for the middle, high school, and elementary. He was hired for, or they were hired for both schools. So they would do a halftime at the elementary and a halftime at the middle. But now we're using our interventionist to cover that.
An interventionist?
Intervention for behavior, academics.
May I interject? The ALC at the middle high is for academic issues, not discipline. If it is a discipline issue, then they will go to the career center. So this is kids who are in trouble of failing in their academic, and they just need that extra help while they're at school. It's not a disciplinary ALC at the middle high. Now here at the elementary, it could be a discipline as well as academic or behavior.
So will this person also be able to service the students that need intervention that aren't discipline problems?
Well, ALC has to address both academic and behavior. So you can't have an ALC that's just behavior. So if you have a student that's struggling, then that student could go to the ALC because it's just an alternative learning center. If they're struggling in their original placement, then they can be placed in there for extra support.
I think maybe what he's asking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what about the interventionalist's job? I mean,
Yeah.
So if he's covering for the ALC, what about what he was, or he or
He's
she?
servicing those kids they were originally hired to service. Yes, thank you, Doug.
They can still service those kids.
And their services won't be shortchanged.
It's whatever the plan is. It's whatever their plan is. So if they have a SAT that's got X amount of minutes, then they could go to the ALC for their minutes. Or they could go to, because it's an alternative learning center.
It's not, so what we're talking right now is not a discipline.
It can be.
Right, but, yeah. So, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, Jason, but what she's answering, from what I think you're asking, satisfies me. Now, if you want to go a little further.
I just want to make sure the students that aren't discipline problems, but they do need intervention services,
Yes, and
they
then
will still be serviced, even
If
though
that
this
is-
person's doing two.
if that's their plan,
That's in there.
If you had more in your plan than you could service, what would you do?
then we would have to look and see what the need would be before we would determine what direction we would go. So if we had 20 kids,
In other words, what he's saying, I think, if you have more need than you have time to do it, and that person, you would have to have somebody else to do it.
you'd have to reevaluate what their needs were, then develop a plan off of that. So if the student would need 30 minutes of intervention and you've got 20 of them, then you would have to look at the people you have and then provide time for that intervention service.
I understand that, but I think that the needs of the student has to come first.
It's
Yes.
just like, and just like where there's a speech pathologist, correct? So if there's more minutes than the speech pathologist on staff can handle, we have sought outside. Am I correct
Yes,
saying that?
yes. Uh-huh.
So am I correct saying that if our ALC or the interventionist gets covered up, then he or she's going to get help from an outside source? Is that correct?
We would look at that, yes.
That-
It would
okay.
have- it would depend upon the need, like we would.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what Mr. Morris referred to, I agree, wanting to make sure not covering one need could leave another need open,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I mean, it sounds like they're, forgive me, I may be interpreting this wrong.
No, you're fine.
It sounds like they're being asked to do a different job than they were hired for. And I think that the job as interventionist is very important. And I just want to make sure the students that need the intervention, they're not going to be shortchanged because this interventionist is dealing with in-school suspension, discipline problems, and kind of babysitting.
Well, and intervention is more than just academic. It can be behavior, it can be social. And then like for social, we have communities and schools. We also have Mrs. Barker, who also works with intervention pieces for the academic part too. She covers credit recovery as well.
So what you're saying is it's covered, as it is, as you're presenting it, or as we're looking, as we're going to know what the ALC is proposed. If things change, we'll sit down and reassess.
Whatever's in the student's plans, we have to provide. So like if they're in a staff and they're getting like a tier 2 service, then if that's in the staff plan, then we would provide that. Or if they're getting a tier 3 service, a lot of times that's covered in the special ed environment. Or if it's a tier 1, that is a service that's covered with all, that's a universal service that's covered with all students. So.
But you will provide whatever's in that SAT, right?
In the STAT plan?
Yeah.
That would be at the school level.
Right.
So it just depends on whatever their tiered service will be. And then Margaret's monitoring. Any other questions on the ALC? Mr. Putnam had talked about benchmark assessments. We are going to open our benchmark December 15th, and that's going to close January 7th. And then we are going to specifically look at our subgroups. And 2 of the subgroups we're going to look at would be our low socioeconomic and our students with special needs. Again, we're going to look at all students, but then we're going to specifically focus on those subgroups as soon as that benchmark data is finished and students have been tested. Today we met as a staff development council. I sent out a survey, and we are beginning to plan for the remainder of this year and the beginning of next year for CE. Something that's going to happen is we are looking at a staff development or a principal-led academy for staff. So we are looking at a 3-day academy before school starts to allow teachers to get in, look at pacing guides, and the principals will lead their school in whatever need that they would have. The other thing I want to talk about, 2 more things, is the communities and schools and the substitutes. The first one that's stapled together, this is for our communities and schools, and this is what they are doing. At the elementary school, our communities and schools person is focusing on attendance. And when you talk about intervention and services, this is another way that we can provide intervention for students. She can carry 80% of her goal on her case load, and then another 20 that does not have to be attached to her goal. So again, this is just another example, depending upon the need, as to whether this person could provide intervention services or not. And so at the elementary school, we've got Miss Busby, and she has her attendance goal. And just so you'll know, what she has done when we put in our goals is she did a needs assessment, and then she did a school support plan on how she's going to meet those needs. And you can flip over on your chart and you can see that she has put that in along with the high school. The high school is providing, their goal is to focus on PBIS behavior and academic achievement. And again, they would also provide intervention based off of whatever the SAT would be. And they have also done the students' needs assessment and the support plan. Not only do they do those pieces to help support student success, they also report out to the leadership team, and then they progress monitoring, and they just did their progress monitoring. If you will go to this single page, you can see what their caseloads are. The top, of course, is the elementary, and the bottom is high school. So the elementary has 14 students that they're case managing. Again, those are students that they're providing some type of intervention for. And again, the majority at the elementary is going to be attendance, but there's a 20% that they can pick up that does not have to be attendance, that they can provide intervention. That could be academics, that could be social emotional, that could be some kind of tier 1 support that they're not getting. At the high school, 36 students are being case managed, and those again are students who are receiving some type of intervention. And then you can look on over, they all have had some type of support plan developed. The SISs have not got them all in the system yet, but with every student, they have to provide some type of support plan, and then they have to monitor that plan. So they have to meet with the student and look at what the plan is, make sure that they're providing the support they need for the student to be successful. Any questions on the communities and schools? And then the last thing, I have worked with Lisa, and we are in a substitute shortage. And we worked together, and we did get a waiver for short-term sub permit. And this means that we can get subs with an associate's degree to try to cover some of that need. And just so you'll be aware, and I appreciate her help in that.
So does that mean our students, Glenville, with AAs that haven't graduated yet, can they get substitute teaching?
They have to be 18, have associate's degree, be of good standing, 2.0.
Pass a background check.
Pass a background check, yes. So if you can spread the word.
Yeah, you got it.
We're looking for people, good people.
They do have
to take the substitute, yes. And Lisa will help set them up with anything they need.
Anybody have any questions for Shelley? Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Joe?
I want to start, Patty, forgive me, I'm a little bit out of my lane here, but I was involved in the meeting, just want to make sure the board understood it correctly. I think with this one, at the high school ALC, the more severe levels of discipline would be who would be going to the career center as is in place right now. And I'm not in the level 3, level 4 more severe. The less severe discipline issues may end up in that ALC. So you said discipline, I just didn't want to mislead the board at all.
And the majority of the discipline is avoidance behavior because they are struggling.
Sorry.
Would you agree? Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that the board understood exactly if we had to travel down that road later. I'll get back in my lane a little bit here. As far as the steps at Gilmer County High School, the wooden steps that you see there, the temporary, but now definitely going to be permanent because they are very substantial steps. I think we could drive our buses up the steps if it was possible. But they are completed with what you see, with what the contractor's been asked to do. The one thing we are going to add, and I just got confirmation through Eric Martin a few minutes ago that they are in, and we picked them up today. We found out real quick that on a frosty morning, a cold frosty morning, rain, that those wooden steps are going to be slick. So what we have done through Hardman's is order some tread. And we are, our maintenance guys picked that up today, and they've been told that's a priority to get those treads on. Now, I think you'll see aluminum plate that will last. And I think you'll see that screwed on those steps real quick. If you have walked up them, it's a 12-inch tread with a 6-inch rise, and it's a very comfortable step. If steps can be comfortable to walk up, it's a very comfortable step to walk up. You do not feel like they're steep. You do not feel like you have to turn sideways. And then we should get, there are railings on those, but we will also get a metal railing that is part of the contract that will go up on the wooden steps. So those are the wooden steps. That's the update on those. As far as these main steps at Gilmer County High School, we did have the design hiccup or mistake that I believe the board was aware of. Once we came back from Thanksgiving break, Clay and Mr. Putnam and I were walking around checking out the site, and it just didn't appear to us to be one goal we wanted was to take care of some of the steepness of those stairs, of the current stairs. We wanted new steps because they're crumbling, but we also wanted to take care of some of the steepness. What we found when we came back from break, and it's hard to see until they started forming it up. Once they started forming it up, getting ready for concrete, 2 days away from concrete, we understood that basically the nose of the steps or the steepness of the steps was going to be the same as the old steps. So we're going to have new steps, but the steepness of the steps were going to be the same. And it wasn't what we asked for. So unfortunately, what we did put a halt to the project. And we did call the architects and we said, now wait a second here. They owned up to it. They completely understood where we're coming from. They completely, completely took ownership of it. And we are going to address the problem. With that, what came is a 2 to 3 week absence. The company, the contractor that's on site, not their fault, not their problem. They could not wait around on us to make the decision to move on. So that's why you've not seen anything done. Now, in saying all that, we have a progress meeting on Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And of course, one of our main questions will be, when you coming back? They have told us they moved to another job. They have assured us we will be their next job. It's about how quick they move on that job. So the 2 dates I've been given, we will either see them on December 20th, which is next Monday, back on our job, or 1 week later, December 27th. Hopefully, I'll know more Wednesday, and I'll relay that to the board. But they will be back on it. The steepness of our stairs, again, if you've walked up the wooden stairs, they will be a 12-inch tread with a 6-inch rise. And it will go back into the building some to take care of some of that steepness. I think at the end of the day, however long these steps last, 40, 50 years, however long they last, I think the inconvenience that we stretched out another 2 or 3 weeks will be well worth it because of what we're going to get as the end result. I think we'll get an end result that we're all going to be happy with. As we are also walking through in that same walkthrough, again, Mr. Putnam, Clay, and myself, as we're walking through, we noticed another potential problem that just wasn't thought of by us. But it's the 2 flag areas. At the side of those steps up there, we have concrete that comes out. We have a flag on each side. So having concrete poured there, it's welcoming for students. Students gather there waiting on their buses. They gather there on a pretty day when they go outside for lunch or whatever. And our steps now are 8 foot less wide. So that brought more to this attention too. As we were discussing the railing that will come up our new steps, we also decided at that point that we need some additional railing that will take a turn and go in front of each flagpole. It's very steep right there. It's probably more noticeable now than what it was before because, again, you lost 4 foot of steps where the old railing was. So there's more area where it's steep there. And we just felt it's in Gilmer County Schools' best interest to do that. So that's an additional $4,400 that Gilmer County Schools will pay. Now, the additional work that has to be done, and it's the top half of those stairs, there's some earthwork. You're going to see some more dirt come out to lay those steps back, to take care of that steepness. That additional work that will be done, Gilmer County Schools will not pay anything for it. The architects will eat that additional cost. We will not pay any more for that. So you are going to see an additional cost, and it's $4,400 some change. It's a ballpark figure, but we asked for that as we saw the potential risk here around those flagpole areas. But we will not see any additional cost because of the mishap. And the only thing we have is 2 to 3 more weeks, a more extended period of time of being inconvenienced with our main steps being shut down. Any questions on the steps at all?
Yeah, we had a date, I don't know, dates.
Yeah.
How's that push that back?
We had what Mr. Cox was referring to, which is a great point, great question. We have a substantial completion date of January 2nd. Because this is no fault of the contractor, I do want the board to understand that the contractor's work, we could not be more pleased They are working with us, they're flexible with us, and they were flying. In fact, I think if we wouldn't have had this mistake, I think our steps would have been completed right now. I think we'd be walking up them right now. So they were moving right along. Because it was no fault of theirs, once we get the date they come back, we will see that January 2nd date go back. If they weren't here 2 weeks, I think you'll see 2 weeks added. If it's 3 weeks they weren't here, I think you'll see 3 weeks added. There will be time added on because it was not their fault to the substantial completion date.
Second question I've got, you're talking about the design and the handrails of $4,400, and did the architects not see that when they were designing it? The safety issue or the?
Well, I guess not, to answer your question. I guess not. And I hate to say it like this, but it's the way it's always been. We've always had that there. Unfortunately, and I don't want to get into details, but Mr. Putman reminded me as we were discussing this, unfortunately, we did have a student just last year that fell down there and had an injury. So sometimes, unfortunately, even though maybe it should have been seen, maybe it should have been caught, it's the way it's been for the life of those steps. And sometimes it takes something to happen to say, yeah, we can do that a little bit better.
Well, I just noticed when you're.
I think it's a fair, right question.
When you're moving.
Yeah.
The footage we're moving, I think the design, maybe not, I'm not an engineer, but I can see it.
It came through with a discussion because we're laying it back, but you still have those concrete steps. So we were worried, how high is that rail going to be? If you're standing there by the flagpole, could you even trip over the railing? And that's kind of how the discussion came up. And then we're just looking at it and we think, man, we ought to address this. We were talking about rails at the time. We asked them to give us a quote on it. We informed the superintendent that, hey, we asked this. We had no idea what the money would be. The money amount just came in today. And the superintendent just happened to be in my office when I got the money amount. Clay had answered on the email. Clay was all for it. I was for it, and the superintendent gave the okay, and we gave that okay today. So that's those steps. We'll talk ESG here in a little bit, and I'm sure we'll talk in depth. So I'll skip that part right now. As you see later on the agenda, thank goodness we do have a substitute bus driver on the agenda. By all reports from the trainers, from the state inspectors, that testing, that make sure he's ready to go. I think we're getting a good one here, and we need bus drivers. If anybody knows anybody, we can still use a couple more. Eric Martin, we can still use a couple more, but that's great. That's great news on the transportation. I do want to give a data boy or whatever to our bus drivers. We have asked a lot of them this year because of the lack of substitutes and things. There are days, and you as board members may get calls. I don't know. I just want you to understand a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing. There have been some days that we have asked different bus drivers to double up, and really we're putting 2 runs on 1 bus. And it will, I don't think we've ever asked for it to be any more than like a 20 minutes difference for anybody, but there have been mornings and there have been more evenings that is happening. And our drivers are doing that for us, and I just want to say that, and everybody is, through COVID, I don't think there's any position within our school system that hadn't been asked a whole lot more. But I did want to bring attention to the bus drivers today on that. As Mr. Putman mentioned, we're into our winter sports. We've got a girls basketball team, varsity girls basketball team. It's off to a hot start. They're 4-0. They just won a Williamstown tournament with the state runner-up in it. And I will invite the board. I think it'll be one of the biggest games in our home gym this year, tomorrow night. We've got Calhoun coming in, our varsity girls. They are very good. So it should be a great game in our gym tomorrow night if you want to be around.
Is it 1 game? Or?
It'll be 2. We'll do JV and varsity. We're a little short-handed right now. But we're going to try to get through a JV game. But we will play 2, starting at 5:45. Varsity on tip off about 7:30. Our varsity boys are 0-1 right now. They're at Work County tonight. Our junior high boys are 1-1. They're a super young team, but I watched them play the other night. They play super hard and they get after it. And I just think they're going to get better and better. And then our junior high girls are 1-2 right now. But again, they're just going to get better and better. I did want to bring to the board's attention because you gave us permission to post wrestling this year. We just competed in our first wrestling event for who knows how long. We have had wrestling before at Gilmer County High School, but we just last Saturday, we competed in our first wrestling event. We don't have enough wrestlers right now, so at the team level, we're not going to compete and go win tournaments or anything like that. But at the individual level, our guys went 15-9. We had a student go 5-0, another student go 5-0, and a student go 4-1. You're allowed to wrestle in 5 matches a day. So I think for the first time, having it to go 15-9 at Gilmer County, I was thrilled to get that news from our coaches. So I think that's positive, and I think that's just going to keep growing and growing. I'd be more than happy to answer any question anybody has for me.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
New business.
Okay, first is the educational leave request, which has already happened, but, just for your approval. Because it did exceed the amount of days that the principals could.
Well, the only question I had about it is, I saw Mr. Putnam signed it, but Mr. Price never did. So I didn't know if something, I mean, I don't have an issue with it, I just wondered why there wasn't a principal signature.
And I know I can answer that. I didn't think I could approve the 5 day. I would. I did review it. I sent it on, but I didn't know that I could approve.
I'm making a motion to approve the educational leave that was requested as presented. We have a motion and a second to approve the leave request that was presented. Is there any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the next thing is the proposed evaluation process for superintendent. This is what the superintendent organization and the West Virginia Department of Education proposing as the instrument to use to evaluate county superintendents, and the county board has to adopt it, or they have to provide one of their own.
I make a motion to approve the evaluation as presented. Process as presented.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to approve the superintendent's evaluation as presented. Any questions or comments, discussions about it? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Carries.
And the next is ESG. Clay?
Brian, you
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you now.
All right. Are there, are there any follow-up questions, comments, based upon what we talked about last week? Hello?
I'd say that's a negative.
All right. It is my recommendation, along with the superintendent and our admin team that's been working on this, that we seek to borrow $1 million to finish out or come to as close as finishing out our HVAC updates and some of the LED upgrades within the school facilities.
Which is listed in scenario 1, correct, Clay?
Yes, that is scenario 1.
Clay, do you have a problem with 1.6? You're recommending 1. So scenario 1 is different than 1.6.
It's not that I have a problem with it. I just think that I think we all have had reservations through this whole process. And I think that $1 million should get us over the hump that we face with deferred maintenance and projects that are in front of us. And I think also, Mr. Minnie, that throughout this entire process, as many times as that we have talked as a board and that I have presented to you, we have talked that many more times and more amongst the staff within the schools and within our admin team. And we just need to be as fiscally responsible as we possibly can. I don't know of a better way to answer that. I mean, obviously, if the board wishes to do more, you know, that's your right. But I would, at this time, feel comfortable seeking $1 million to put with the $1.7 million that has already been approved.
Well, Mr. Minnie's opened it up for discussion, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my 2 cents. If you look at borrowing one or borrowing 1.59 is what I'm looking at. We're talking about an average energy cost savings of, at $1 million, it's annual, and this may be or may be incorrect, it's just as good as the information I'm looking at. It's $20,000. Average cost on $1 million is $20,000. So if we add $600,000 to that, we more than double our cost savings. Is that, I mean, I don't know if you have this information in front of you, but it goes from 20 to $44,400.
That's correct.
Where I'm going with this, and I know we've talked a little bit, we've wallowed around, and as far as fiscally responsible play, I totally appreciate that. We are, as near as I can tell, we're in an opportunity. I won't say a lifetime because opportunities come a lot, but I don't think the board has been in this position, as far as I've been paying attention to it, and certainly as long as I've been a part of it, to do as much as we possibly are going to be able to do for our investment. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm just throwing it out there. You know, we're a whole board, and we'll decide this together. It just, the wild card to this, I guess, is the deferred maintenance that we will not put $1 on today, and we really can't put $1 on one down the road. And some of that would be covered under more. So just, you know, this is an open forum with questions and answers, and I'm just throwing that out. And it's, you know, if we decide to do that, it is your responsibility to pay the bills.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Brian.
To me, Clay, it's the same as we spoke before, and I've done a lot of research and reading on this since we spoke. I just wonder, that extra 600,000, Doug, I wonder if the end will justify the means, you know? I wonder if it is, if we're comfortable, and I'm someone that, I do have some reservations, but I, like Mr. Minnie, left the meeting we had the other day with a different feeling than I came into this one. I do believe we need to act and move on this because of the money that was awarded and the opportunity that's before us. Now, back to the point of order, is that $600,000. And Clay, I liked your answer for what you said, but can we talk about that $600,000 a little bit more, and where you think we're going to cut that out?
And kind of, and feel free to speak up, but I'll do kind of our whole main focus through this. If kind of divide this, kind of section it out a little bit. We will see the most cost savings by upgrading our lighting. Last quoted number that we had for that, and I mean, it was just budgetary, it wasn't factual or actual amount, but that was in the neighborhood to 300 to 450,000, I think. But our whole main focus all along, and anybody that's there listening, please feel free to correct me if I'm outspeaking, but our whole main focus all along has been to take care of the HVAC needs in those units that are at their life expectancy right now, have been for quite some time. That has been our main priority and focus. With that being said, that would be the area kind of to try to get that, to stretch that 1 million as far into the HVAC as I possibly could. Maybe that is not the right answer. Maybe that's not the logical way to look at it. But I think our main needs right now is HVAC. And I think, does that mean that we don't get any LED? I don't know the answer to that. We do part of the LED and some of the LED another way to help stretch that. That's a possibility. I just know when you're talking for the next 15 years, I want to get everything done that we possibly can, but also be as conservative as possible.
I understand that.
And I respect that.
I think, Clay, what I want to just add, everything you said there was true. The board does need to understand scenario one in front of them. If we just went to 1 million, the scenario one that you have in front of you, 600,000 has got to be cut somewhere. And
right.
Brian did ask that. I would probably echo what Clay said. The only thing I would do is to caution a little bit. Probably controls here at the board office would be on that list. And then I'd probably go to lighting, but I caution the board when we go to lighting, as Clay started with, I think what we'll do, that's one of the biggest cost-saving things in the figures. So I just want the board to know that if we go to lighting, any cost-saving figures that we gave you, or that have been presented to you, would have to be readjusted. Really, that whole scenario, we have to look at again, what can we do for $1 million? And we'd have to prioritize. But definitely some of that scenario, as the board's sitting there looking at it, would have to come out of the project if we went $1 million.
And then I was just doing the numbers here. If we went 1.5 borrowed, that's a difference of $8,896 for the yearly payment between the two payments. So there's an additional $8,000 that we'd be committing the board to pay.
We can borrow $500,000 for an additional $8,000 a year?
No, 1.5, if we borrowed 1.5 million, our monthly payment after the energy savings is a difference of $8,000. If we borrowed $1 million, our monthly payment, our yearly payment is 46. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, you're right. Let's do that again, because you've got me confused. I'm pretty good with numbers. So if we borrow $1 million,
our monthly payment is, our yearly payment is 46,666.
Hey guys, there's some really bad background interference, and I can't hear. I don't know if it's.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, it was the phone. If we borrowed 1.5 million, your yearly after cost savings is 55,563. So if you subtract the 55 and the 46, that's the 8,000 I was referring to.
So, and I see that in the paperwork in front of me. If we borrow $1.5 million, Brian, and this is roughly, our payment would be $8,300 basically a month. And that's before energy savings, which is an estimate of $44,000 a year. So with the energy savings at 1.5 million, we would be paying back $55,500 a year. So you can break that down to however you want. At $1 million, we would be paying back $46,000 a year after energy savings. Now the difference between the 1 million and the 1.5 million for energy savings itself is $24,000 a year. So to borrow 1 million or $500,000 more, it's an estimate of almost $9,000 or $10,000 a year more. Is the way I see it.
I'm standing out here in the middle of nowhere and don't have anything to look at, but how on earth, how come I can't get my money and my mind around how we can borrow $500,000?
No, not half. 1
Well, what
.5.
he's adding the half a million.
Oh, okay.
What you're not seeing, Brian, that's not in front of you is there's a difference in the energy savings between those two numbers. If you spend $1 million, you're looking at annually of saving around $20,000 a year. If you take an extra $500,000, your energy saving doubles. So, I mean, and Audra's here and she can do a little better than that, but that's how I read it and the calculations has been provided for. And if that's wrong, somebody speak up, because that's what I've got.
There's no doubt the energy savings is going to be less if you environment it.
Right. Well, according to what we've been presented, and you know, I know this can change a little bit, but Brian, at $1 million, it would be $66,000 a year. We would payment before energy savings. There would be an estimate or less $20,000 for that year with the $1 million worth of borrowing. So we're looking like we're going to be responsible for $46,000 a year. Now, if you borrow that 1.5, your energy saving, your loan payment goes up, but your energy savings over doubles.
So let's talk about the guarantee on that energy savings.
Yeah.
Where are those numbers?
The guarantee is what I just told you, the $44,400 as opposed to the $20,000. So spending an extra $500,000 guaranteed doubles your energy savings. You all follow?
Yeah, I think
So, Clay, and I too am conservative, but explain to me why that you think that we probably shouldn't go ahead for the extra 8,000 plus and get the other $500,000.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just saying that my recommendation was $1 million, based on a lot of factors, conversations that we've had as an admin team. And I mean, maybe there's, based upon, trying to read you guys and the multiple workshops that we've had with this, I don't know what your comfort level is. And I mean, that is something that is part of this conversation. I mean, if that's a different number, I just want it to be all something that we can live with. When you do look at the total difference in payment and the total cost savings, it does look as if you're better off to borrow more. But at the same time, you are making that payment go up.
Changes.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, we're going to borrow our money, correct?
That is correct. Worst case scenario, if everything goes south, we just cash in however much of that CD that we took out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, nobody's out of a job. No students are out of materials.
Not going to come back and repossess anything, are they?
Nope.
Audra, do you have something to add?
The only thing I wanted to add is on the scenario one, this has actually been modeled by our engineers. These are the real numbers.
Right.
We've walked through with the contractors and so on. So this is something you can really depend on. The other numbers that you're discussing, we don't have a model on. Scenario one is the one you have the real numbers on from ESG and our engineers. That's all I can say.
Clay, I appreciate everything, and I know some of my questions have been difficult, and they're all over the map, and I know I'm hard to read because my comfort level with this thing has changed a couple of different times, but I believe as it's presented and as the numbers look to me that I believe I'm comfortable with the scenario one.
Okay.
The 1.6,
Well, we were talking about 1.5 a minute
Well,
ago.
I think, Brian, and I know you don't have this in front of you, but the full scenario one is 1.1591.
118.
Okay.
So, and your payment is.
So it sounds like, what, somebody go over that with me real quick, because
All right, so.
I've got the HVAC stuff in front of me.
Full scenario number one is $1.59182. So it essentially is the same cost savings. Our monthly payment is $8839.90. And so that would be $106,000. Then when you take the cost savings out, our yearly payment broke down into 12 payments would be $61,642. And that gets us the full scenario one that we're looking at. And with a little news from the State Department, we may be able to pay for a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So we're waiting that any moment.
Clay, I don't think we as a board can afford not to go to 1.6. I think we need to do that. This is a good shot, it's a good opportunity, we have zero interest, not costing anybody anything, there's no big gamble.
Clay, I want to ask you a question. I mean, I know, I think this board's been very, and let me say, I think you've been very fiscally responsible, and this board supported that. As we look into using our money and paying ourselves back, what's the downfall of not having that nest egg there? I mean, have you thought about that any?
I mean, for the next, for the next 15 years, who knows? I mean, I do know, we are all experiencing higher prices. I mean, I don't think that you're ever going to borrow the money for less than what we can get it for right now. That money will have to stay at Calhoun as a guarantor for that loan for the life of the loan, unless we just pay it off and move it, which isn't, that's not beyond the realm of possibility. And I guess, kind of my thought and point all along is that we have the money there. And I don't know that that's something that's ever been able to be said before, ever been able to be talked about before. But this is a good conversation. This is a good conversation and a good decision that I hope that we can make. Does the 1.5, does stretching that out there, does that present a little bit more risk? Yes, but you also have a greater, cost savings. And I mean, that's just, if that's where everybody's at, then that's just what we have to be cognizant of going forward.
Well, the other question I ask you, because you're the one that the money comes into, the state aid formula changed a few years ago, and we're getting more. I mean, has that changed? Are we still experiencing?
We're still experiencing
some excess funds that we may add to going down the road? I mean,
that is correct.
I mean, I don't like to spend something I don't have in my hands. I understand that, but to my knowledge, there's been nothing through House bill. I believe it was 206 or Senate bill, whatever. When they put us on a level playing field, if that playing field's still level, as long as we at Gilmer County take care of that money, and I know it's no guarantee it's going to be there forever, but in 3 more years, we might have another chunk to either pay off this note or to add to the CD. So
that is true.
Thank you.
Clay, if I could add maybe 2 cents, and I like the way the conversation's going as the maintenance director, because I think if we get new, we're way better off. But I'll do one, Clay, to say, hey, we can afford this, we're in good shape. But one thing I haven't heard mentioned, Clay, that I don't know how it would factor in. And of course, we're all hoping for a positive result, but the levy. We want a positive result in that levy, and we hope we pass that levy and are able to pass that levy. Would a negative result in that levy run, how would that factor in, Clay?
I mean, it could factor in a negative way, but I mean, if you also look at it from a positive perspective too, we're sitting here looking at scenarios that are guaranteed that we're going to cut our maintenance
Good answer.
down. We're going to have more efficient units, more efficient lighting. I mean, would there be some offset? Sure, but you know, upgrading those units and the schools to more efficient utility usage. You know, the bulk of our utilities is paid out of the general fund. So any money savings that would potentially put back money in that general fund is a win in my mind.
That's very well said too.
Well, that was going to be my comment too. Is those savings, as we see that impact our general fund in a positive way. Not to mention not having to band-aid, cutting the cost of just maintenance overall for a lot of these things that we do on a regular basis. I mean, wouldn't that be beneficial just in itself?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think one of the things, we're sitting here talking about money, and I know we've got to have it to pay our bill. But the benefit that our children in these schools and faculty and staff are going to get from the decision we're going to make tonight, I think outweighs all of what we're sitting here talking about. We know this project's done, and whenever that is, that when our students, staff, and faculty enter our schools, that we're in better shape.
Health and safety.
Yes, I would say.
So, is there any more questions or comments for Clay, Joe, or Patty? I'm going to make a motion that the Gilmer County Board of Education approve the full scenario number 1 as submitted in our board packet, totaling $1,182. We have a motion and a second. So I'm going to open it up for discussion, comment, or questions. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gilmer County school systems are going to be better off, ladies and gentlemen, for what we did this evening.
Thank you.
And without the discussion, Brian, Tammy, Tom, and Jason, we probably may not have done it, but I thank you all for that. We'll move on.
The next is the excess levy that has been presented to you. We've talked about it. We need to get it on the county commission's agenda so that we can run it in May and again in November if need be. We're going to pass it in May. And it's no increase to anybody, any taxpayers. It's the same rate, same amount of money. And we did add some additional things such as the safe schools, and we also added some academic extracurricular pay. So we did add some extras in there, but it's still the same dollar amount.
I'm going to make a motion to approve, I'm going to make a motion on Patty's recommendation to approve this levy presented. The only thing I'm going to ask Patty is to put the,
yes,
there was something omitted, and I mean, I'm sure it was just an error, but the technology for whatever that monetary value was. Yeah. So with that, there's a motion on the floor to approve this levy.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or comments regarding it? I just want to say thanks for putting it together, Clay, Joe, whoever else, Patty had it. This is encumbersome. This is, when we present this to Gilmer County, we get one shot. Well, I guess 2 if we need it, but, I think I stand behind what we're asking for and how it benefits our school system. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then the next is the ALC plan, which was provided, which Mrs. Mason explained to you for your approval to amend it to where we will have full-time ALC here at the board office for K through 5, 6 through 12, which will only be for academic and minimal behavior at the 6 through 12. Anything that's discipline, heavy discipline, will be addressed through the Calhoun Gilmer Career Center. in the evening time.
And I know we can't get specifics on students, but can the board get an update of how, like if a student comes in January 1st and the process, and when do we turn her or he to the classroom? I mean, not specific to one individual, but because teachers have reached out and talked about the ALC, but it's not been used, or if it has, so I just think there's going to be some transparency or some information sharing. And I know we've got to protect the kids that are in it. I understand that.
This is going to be new because it is going to be full-time for the elementary, where they just come. So they will ride the bus, unless it's a discipline for the elementary, like expulsion. They will be able to ride the bus to school. They'll be able to have their breakfast while at school. Then they'll be transported over here. We'll transport lunch over here. Then they'll transport them back, so they get to ride the bus home. And same thing with the middle high. So there will, because that's a big hindrance about parents bringing kids to ALC is the transportation. So we eliminated that stumbling block.
I like it. I mean, and I think we'll address, if it ever comes to that, Jason's concern. But as it is today, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the ALC plan that was revised and presented. Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Jason voted no. Passes 4-1.
There's no old or unfinished business. And then personnel, you want me to just do it all one swoop? Okay. Professional, we have Brandon Shinneberry, substitute teacher, Charlotte Squires, substitute teacher, Monica Bush, substitute teacher, Cheyenne Henderson, substitute teacher. Under service, we have Frank Postlethwaite, substitute custodian, Mason McCann, substitute bus operator. Under extracurricular, now I'll just do that then before the permission to post. Okay. Extracurricular, Amanda Sink, resignation after school math tutor, effective 1/10/20. Should be 22, that's what I was looking at, 22. Carl Ferguson, auxiliary varsity girls, and Barbara Yoder as head varsity cheerleading coach for basketball.
So moved. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel service and extracurricular activities as presented by the superintendent. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Then permission to post, we do need to do a extra duty bus operator for the ALC to get the kids from the elementary here and back. And we also would like to post for a classroom transportation aid for the ALC here because, the grade span from kindergarten to 5 could be quite difficult. So we'd like to post, we will pay for the ALC aid out of, help me Shelley, title, Step 7. So, and then we'll deal with the situation later when we do realignment of staff in the spring.
So my question about that is, because I mean, you all can give me numbers, but I don't think we've used the ALC very much. What do we do with the aid if there's no one here?
Well, I think Tyson will take care. But no, if there's no one here, then we will take them over there and they will work in the classroom where the student is having the academic and the difficulties. That's what we did with Mr. Yoder before we had students here. He actually went to the elementary and then he went to the middle high in the afternoon. So we will utilize, yes.
I'll make a motion we grant permission to post bus operator in the classroom transportation aid presented. Second. So I have a motion and a second to approve permission to post as presented. Any questions or other comments? All in favor? Aye.
Then under my information, SBA did have their awards today. Lincoln County, McDowell County, Cabell County, and Kanawha County all were awarded new facilities. Taylor County was awarded money to fix their roof on Grafton High School. And then Ben Ashley, I didn't even hear this about Ben Ashley resigned to go to a different place. So that was the update on the SBA today. Shelley and Joe and Tyson and Mr. Putnam all have hit everything that I was gonna talk to you about this evening, so.
Anybody have any questions for the superintendent? Board comments? I'll just reiterate what I said a minute ago. I know we put ourselves out there for some, well, money that's our, we own it, it's our money, we're gonna use it. But I think Gilmer County ought to be proud of the decisions that's made here tonight. Myra, put that quick.
I agree. And
I agree.
we thank you. We thank you. We're excited to get these going.
Anybody else? Brian, Tammy?
No, sir, I'm good.
No.
I'd like to reiterate what somebody said. I think we're in a really good place as far as the board is concerned. I think that the safety and health of the students and staff of Gilmer County has greatly been enhanced over the last year and a half. I know that I've been here. I hope we continue on this path of making improvements, improving on the curriculum. Shelley works on all the time, I'm sure, with the other administrators. We're doing well with the curriculum, and the facilities now should be coming up to a high quality standard that they need to be. And our students and our staff are the ones that's going to benefit the most.
They deserve it.
Thank you.
They deserve it.
With that, I'll make a motion.
Tammy, did you have something to say?
No, I was just saying, no, I didn't.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
thank you. Hey,